RP X, RP Peep, RP Mac. You're in heaven, no relax. This shit got me tearing up.
What's good, y'all? I'm Jerry. Today I'm about to check out 10 WWE wrestlers Hulk Hogan selfishly buried for his own gain. I can't really name any superstars off the top of my head, so let's hop into this video.
The immortal Hulk Hogan may be considered one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, but it doesn't take away from the fact that Hogan has always been reserved in putting talent over. There have been several occasions where Hogan has selfishly buried a wrestler in the process of making himself look better. But which wrestlers were they? Well, join us now as WrestleMania looks at 10 WWE wrestlers that Hulk Hogan buried. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10, The Ultimate Warrior. A WrestleMania 6 featured an absolute dream match as Hulk Hogan and The Ultimate Warrior collided for the WWE title. Warrior would be victorious in the match. The match was supposed to act as a passing of the torch from Hogan to Warrior, but this didn't happen, and Hogan remained the top babyface in the WWE. Fast forward 8 years later, and Hogan was the top heel in WCW. This is when WCW had the idea of bringing the Warrior in to work a program with Hogan. WCW fans believed that Warrior was only brought into the company so Hogan could finally get his win back. The Hulkster reportedly had a lot of resentment that he was never able to get his victory back during his time in the WWE, and with his creative influence in WCW, this could finally become a reality. The two would face off at the '98 Halloween Havoc pay-per-view, and the match was so bad
Warrior was in
it was regarded as
WCW?
one of the single worst
I
matches
never watched
in
WCW at all, y'all.
history. Hogan would win the match and made Warrior look so bad in it, the Warrior was never taken seriously as a legitimate wrestler ever again. Number 9, Rick Rude. Rick Rude was a tremendous pro wrestler with an even better character. Therefore, in the 80s, there was an idea to have Rude begin a top-level feud with Hogan for the WWE
the man
title.
back in the day.
Hogan reportedly didn't like the idea. He believed that Rude was beneath him, and Hogan instead opted to work with much larger WWE superstars. And there was also some belief that Hogan was jealous of Rude's incredible physique, and this contributed to Hogan not wanting to work with him. The two would end up wrestling on a number of house shows, but these matches were designed to get Hogan over, and the matches never once made Rude appear to be on the same level as the Hulkster. Number 8, Vader. When Hulk Hogan signed for WCW in '94,
Vader.
one of the names that wrestling fans wanted to see Hogan
and
collide
Ultimate Warrior
with was Vader. Vader was one of the top stars
Vader.
in WCW, and he was as legitimate and as tough as they come. Unfortunately, Hogan defeated Vader in every single one of their matches. Even worse was the fact that during the build to these matches, Hogan always got the better of Vader and was never in doubt who was going to come out on top. Vader was never really the same following the matches with Hogan, and some fans state that the feud with him seriously impacted Vader's star power and legitimacy. Number 7, YOKOZUNA. The YOKOZUNA capturing the WWE title at WrestleMania 9 was a huge moment. It was the biggest career achievement to date for YOKOZUNA, and WrestleMania going off the air with a heel winning the title was incredibly unique. This booking decision, though, didn't sit well with one Hulk Hogan, who decided to once again use his backstage power for his own benefit. Hogan decided to go to Vince McMahon directly and suggested that he should defeat YOKOZUNA for the title following his match with Bret to send the fans home happy. This was Hogan taking away from Yokozuna's moment, and Hogan simply wanted to be the talking point of the entire show.
Damn.
Vince reluctantly agreed, and Hogan would end up defeating Yoko in 22 seconds to capture the title in one of the most unnecessary burials of all time.
Was that the same
Number
night?
6, Jake the Snake
Well, that's another
Roberts.
pay-per-view.
Considered to be by many one of the greatest and most influential talkers in pro wrestling history, Jake Roberts should have had a sustained main event run in WWE. But this was in fact planned, and in '86, WWE would plant the seeds for a huge match between Roberts and Hulk Hogan. Roberts would even drop Hogan with a DDT on the Snake Pit to set up the huge feud. But the issue was that fans began to side with Roberts. They were chanting DDT at him, and Hogan was rather concerned that this was going to take away from his own popularity. The Hulkster also believed that Roberts wasn't ready for a feud of this magnitude, and he believed that it wouldn't make business sense. The two would have a few matches against each other at house shows, all of which did extremely well financially, but Hogan ultimately decided that Roberts wasn't on his level. The plans for Roberts' push were cancelled, and as a result, Roberts was moved down the card. Number 5, Sting. One of the main reasons that WCW was so successful in the 90s was the feud between Sting and the New World Order. This feud would come to a head at the '97 Starrcade pay-per-view when NWO leader Hulk Hogan defended the WCW title against Sting in the main event. The pay-per-view ended up being the most successful WCW pay-per-view in company history, as it received 700,000 buys.
For
The
real?
issue is that fans purchased the pay-per-view with the assumption and expectation
Sting's
that
gonna
Sting
win.
was going to conquer the villainous Hogan. Whilst this didn't happen, WCW booked Sting's victory in such a convoluted manner that they somehow managed to completely bury Sting in the process. During the match, Hogan executed a leg drop on Sting and pinned him 1-2-3. New WCW signing Bret Hart then claimed that the referee performed a fast count, but this simply wasn't the case. This was a complete normal count and there was no reason for the match to be restarted. Sting had been beaten fair and square, and it made the seemingly invincible WCW star look incredibly weak. The match restarted and then Sting won the match via the Scorpion Deathlock to win the title. According to Eric Bischoff, Sting showed up to the Starrcade pay-per-view looking out of shape, and the new finish was put together as a result. However, fans also believe that Hogan simply didn't want to put Sting over clean, and this would explain the complex and frustrating booking in WCW's biggest match ever. Number 4, Billy Kidman. In 2000, WCW was in serious trouble both creatively and financially. They needed to create some new stars, and they needed to do this fast. And one of the stars WCW began to push was Billy Kidman. Kidman was incredibly talented, but his size always held him back from receiving a major push. The idea was for Kidman to feud with the legendary Hulk Hogan, as the idea for this feud started after Hogan publicly buried Kidman on a radio show and claimed that Kidman could never draw.
Billy Kidman and some of the smaller wrestlers, first off, they need to spend more time in the gym.
Now, the feud was supposed to get Kidman over as a top guy, but all this did was expose Hogan for the selfish wrestler that he was. Kidman managed to get the better of Hogan in matches on WCW Nitro, but the promo exchanges between the two didn't make for pleasant viewing. Kidman had never been given substantial mic time before, so he was rather exposed, and Hogan took full advantage of that. The two also faced off at 2 WCW pay-per-view events, but Hogan was able to defeat Kidman on both occasions. The 2 pay-per-view matches did nothing for Kidman, as following the feud with Hogan, WCW would go in a different direction with him and would be quickly moved away from working with top WCW talent. Number 3, Shawn Michaels. Hulk Hogan was and continues to be the master manipulator. He was prone to changing booking plans and dropping out of matches if he knew he had to put someone over. This was the case when Hogan began a dream feud with Michaels in 2005. The 2 wrestling legends were supposed to have 3 matches against each other, the rationale being that both superstars could look good and both could get a victory over each other. Hogan ultimately decided that his back was in too bad of a shape to do more than one match, and with Hogan being the babyface in the feud, he would be victorious in the only match between the 2 Hall of Famers. As we know, HBK was the one who had the last laugh, as he decided to oversell everything Hogan did during the SummerSlam match in rather comedic fashion. Number 2, Randy Savage. Now, although Macho Man Randy Savage was one of the most popular wrestlers of all time, he never managed to achieve a clean victory over Hulk Hogan. The 2 men wrestled both in WWE and WCW, and every time they wrestled, it was traditionally Hogan who would come out victorious. Savage was popular, charismatic, and most fans would class him as a better wrestler than Hogan, but Hogan always wanted to make sure that he appeared to be the superior wrestler when facing Savage in the ring, and it didn't matter if he was facing Savage at WrestleMania 5 or facing him at a random Nitro in 1999. And number 1, Randy Orton. One of the top matches on the SummerSlam card in 2006 was a Legend Killer vs. Legend match between Randy Orton and Hulk Hogan. This match would act as Hogan's last match to date, and everyone was under the impression that Hogan would be willing to put over the young star. Instead, Hogan won clean, and this happened for seemingly no reason at all. To make things worse, following Hogan defeating Orton, Hogan made public comments stating that his match was the best match on the entire pay-per-view. He would also state that the crowd was dead before he came out to face Orton. Now, for some context, only 2 matches took place before Hogan's match, and one of them featured Rey Mysterio, who received one of the biggest ovations of the entire pay-per-view. Criticism was and continues to be offered towards Hogan for not putting over Orton, but thankfully Orton's career didn't suffer from Hogan's selfishness. But there you have it, folks. 10 WWE wrestlers that Hulk Hogan buried. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you.
Alright, y'all, man, great video, man. Hulk Hogan had a big ego, bro. Some of this stuff wasn't even called for. I don't know if he just used his power of being the big star to kind of influence the top guys, top executives, or whoever that was in charge of the show, running the show, to kind of put him in the spotlight and keep him in the spotlight and just make sure his character looks strong while making somebody else's character look weak. And I ain't really cool with that. So let me know what y'all thought of the video, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.